Well, hi, everybody. A very pleasant evening to you. It's Steve Dolan here on EastCountySports.com along with Ramon Scott. Ramon Scott, we are back for the final stretch for the final 6 weeks of the Major League Baseball season. We're going to talk a little bit about the San Diego Padres. For those who are following them, you know, just not so long ago, there were 6.5 games ahead of the Cincinnati Reds for that final wild card spot. I'll tell you what, Padres are a game behind the Reds now. As you all know, they had a stretch of 13 games against weak teams with Miami, Arizona, Colorado. Should have gone at least 9-4 in that stretch. They only went 5-8. 1-6 on a road trip to Arizona and Colorado. 2-9 in their last 11 games. And as you know, today they fired the pitching coach, Larry Rothschild. Now, Ramon, before I keep rambling on about a bunch of numbers and all, I want to ask you your opinion. What's going on with the Padres?
Steve, thanks for giving me part of the summer off to catch up on some things. I mean, I feel like, you know, with just our little show with you and I and a few of our friends on Facebook, but of course I feel like we jinxed it between ourselves, right? Because things were not perfect, but they were more fine and dandy, right? When we were doing the show a couple times a week. And now it feels like we're coming here to roast them a little bit, but look, I'm not here to, try to solve the problems. We whatever it is, we've got to solve it quickly. But I think there are some problems that we probably don't know about right now because things like this, like you see today, maybe just don't happen every day. Maybe in some sports they do. Maybe in some other businesses they do. But when you got a team that's, yes, the pitching situation has gotten a little reckless, careless, a little bit out of control, but the numbers are kind of still, not great, but not in the bottom tier either. And when you're having such struggles with a staff and still can put up decent numbers, maybe the pitching coach is doing a decent job. But Rothschild, he's a little bit older than most of the crew, so maybe there was some issues there as well. I don't know. I've just been reading what the newspaper man's been writing about it, so I don't think there's even been really much speculation other than Tingler accepting responsibility. I know there's going to be a lot of talk about the job that Tingler's done, and this is AJ's handpicked man. So I don't know if there'll be a change necessarily. I don't think it's beyond Preller to make a change even after one season, but I think this was his handpicked guy. It's kind of why we made the moves. They made the moves that they did, to put Tingler in place. So we'll talk about that more, Steve. Probably talk too long on this show tonight, given the situation. But you know what? We're playing the Dodgers, so we're going to be very competitive. We'll probably sweep these guys because they're not in last place like all the other teams we lose to.
Exactly. The Padres do better against teams over 500 than under 500. That being said, the last time they played the Dodgers, the Padres did sweep a 3-game series in San Diego. Of course, at that time, the Dodgers were kind of ravaged with injuries like the Padres are now. I mean, going back to the pitching staff, basically the theme right now is Musgrove and Snell and hope like HEWL, because it just really has been bad. I mean, you think about the rotation right now, it basically is down to Joe Musgrove, our great Grossmont High alum, and Blake Snell. After that, Ryan Weathers, to me, he's either going to go down or be shut down for the rest of the year. He can't, 5 straight bad outings, you just can't keep having that. He's 21 years old. I think he's hit a wall. After that, you've been having a lot of bullpen games. Chris Paddock's going to be coming back soon. So pretty soon, I think your 4-man rotation and Yu Darvish hopefully coming off the injured list at some point against the Dodgers. You're going to have Darvish. You're going to have Musgrove. You're going to have Snell. You're going to have Paddock. And Ramon, I know you're not going to like this, but Jake Arrieta is going to be their 5th starter. Why? Because they have nobody else. Absolutely.
Well, you obviously followed some of my little quips on Twitter when we signed Arrieta. I was surprised. I was a Jake fan. I mean, I certainly made some money with Jake over the years, so I have a bit of an affinity for him. But I just didn't think the Padres, a socially conscious team like they sometimes are, would bring a guy like what. I don't say like him. I just said the comments that he made to the reporter is, kind of a mask shaming incident at a post-game press conference. Sure, you could write it off, but for the Padres to sign him not less than 7 days later did catch me by surprise. I don't think Jake has anything left in the tank at all, and he actually did a nice job. I'll give credit for what he did out there in that start, given his trajectory right now. Thanks for coming, Jake, and appreciated the one start. I hope it's all that he gets with this organization. But I imagine if in a couple weeks, if it's just a minor situation, he'll be back to log some more innings because the Padres just don't have enough right now. Look, Steve, by any Padres standards, this has been an incredible season. It's been a miraculous season, an awesome season. We've had some of the most exciting moments in franchise history this year. We're competing against two of the best teams that baseball's seen over the last 5 to 10 years. The Dodgers and the Giants are playing out of their minds. Hats off to the Giants. They're the team that really outplayed us this year and deserves all the success that they get. Of course, I'm hard to choose between those two teams, but I guess if we had to, right, we kind of maybe pull for those Giants a little bit. Plus, they're more of an underdog story. We don't want the Dodgers winning. But look, the Padres are still one of the elite teams because they've spent the money. They're going to continue. They're losing money. There's no doubt about it. How long we can keep this up, I don't know. But they wanted to win. They want to win now. If the target date has been 2022 all along, then, we can maybe still cut them just a little bit of slack. But I think the expectations got so high so fast with the success. Don't forget Fernando's injury. Each time he's gone down, the team has suffered a bit of a lull. The first time there was a little bit of success there, but every time he's been out, he brings just so much to the team. It's not about his play, obviously. He's obviously a true leader that people rally around. So, and to see what they're doing with him defensively now just shows how chaotic the team is. Steve, you and I have talked about, other than this last injury, the injuries, I think 3 of them actually happened while not playing defense, right? 2 were sliding, 1 was at bat, and 1 was a defensive play. So if you're trying to save him, to me, it was a great shortstop. Sure, some of the problems he had may have been because of that injury. Hopefully that'll all work out in the off season. But, we already got a roster full of guys that are just, I guess, what can they play everywhere?
Yeah. Well, you know what, Ramon? Let's go back to something you said a minute ago. The Giants. Really, they're winning with a pitching rotation with like Anthony DeSclafani, Alex Wood, Logan Webb. I'll tell you who the Giants remind me of. They remind me of the 1994 San Diego Chargers. Was that the Chargers' most talented team ever? Absolutely not. But did they make it to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. And when they got there, the 49ers had just so much more talent. The Chargers didn't have a chance. 49ers are like that 94 Charger team. Great chemistry, everything going their way. Look at the last 2 games in Oakland over the weekend. Saturday, they're down 5-4. They get a 2-run pinch hit homer in the 9th by Lamont Webb Jr. Sunday, they're down 1-0 in the 8th. Donovan Solano comes off the bench, 2-run pinch hit home run. They win that game 2-1. So, 2 days in a row, the Giants win with pinch hit home runs in the 8th or 9th inning. That's the way things are going for the Giants. They're just kind of like that magical team. You put the Padres up against the Giants. The Padres have a lot more talent. There's just no doubt about it. But, Ramon, one thing I say that is very telling about the Padres that really has kind of flown under the radar. A week ago, their AAA manager, Edwin Rodriguez, who managed Puerto Rico to the finals in the 2017 World Baseball Classic, had managed the Miami Marlins, he quit. And he said it wasn't for family reasons. So obviously there was something with him in the organization there. I think, back in the day when you and I were, back in the 90s and all, when we were reporting and you had more newspapers and all, you had more investigative reporters. I would love to have an investigative reporter figure out just what was the reason Rodriguez quit at El Paso. Was it because the Padres kept bringing guys up and down and he didn't have pitchers to pitch that night? I don't know. That's just speculation. But I'd sure like to know why their AAA manager quit and now they're firing their pitching coach. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and like you said, Steve, the expectations got so high so fast. And, yeah, there's been some unraveling to it, and I'm not saying that, they can't throw Rothschild out as the scapegoat as the media wants to portray it. I mean, you can still look at 3 serious injuries to, guys who would be in the starting rotation, no doubt, when you're talking about, Clevenger, right, and Lamet. But that's not to say that, it's the younger pitchers too that maybe we're supposed to be up. I don't think up by this time. So, the talents, they're better than we're better than the Reds too. I mean, we have more talent than the Reds too, and we're going to end up, behind them as well. So, a lot of finger pointing going to be coming down, on Tingler. I'm just not sure that they're going to be interested in replacing him as the manager.
Yeah, because he's got 1 year left on his contract, and before next year, you either got to sign him beyond next year or get rid of him after this year because you don't want a lame duck manager coming back. Remember now, he was A.J. Preller's choice. They knew each other when they were both in the Texas Rangers organization. I actually thought before last season they would hire Ron Washington, the former Rangers manager who had gotten to the World Series, but it was Jace Tingler instead. They're going to have to make a decision on Tingler. I just thought it was interesting, the decision they made today on Rothschild. I got to be honest with you. When I woke up this morning, I thought to myself, at the end of the season, there's going to be a scapegoat, and it's going to be Rothschild. Well, he came 6 weeks early. You can remember, Ramon, with the pitching rotation, when the season started, now the Padres have no starting pitching. Season started, remember, you got 3 guys you traded for. You're going to go Darvish, Snell, Musgrove. Then you're going to have Lamet. Then you're going to have Paddock. Ryan Weathers maybe at some point would start. Mackenzie Gore, who hasn't done anything, would maybe at some point would start. Then Adrian Morejon, who did start, had Tommy John surgery. Michelle Baez, who was going to start, had that. So you were like 9 or 10 pitchers deep as far as starting pitchers going into spring training, and now you're down to Snell and Musgrove. I mean, it's just been an incredibly bad run, and the funny thing is too, they're blaming Rothschild. The fact of the matter is, yes, the Padres starting rotation has been very poor, but their bullpen's been excellent because they have the second best bullpen ERA in all of Major League Baseball. So it's really a quandary. What's going on there?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. That's the thing about it. I mean, the bullpen numbers are great. So when you're trying to determine the effectiveness of a pitching coach, especially if you have to manage. Now, look, one of the biggest criticisms is we have to go in the bullpen too soon. We only let guys go 1 inning, but maybe that's worked. I mean, look at the numbers. Now, I rate the Padres bullpen probably right now. I've got them maybe 9th or 10th in the league. That's the way I'm kind of looking at them, but that's as a current roster as well. So that doesn't take into account the injuries. I'm talking about as of this moment, Steve. I kind of look at things, me, by a day-by-day basis. So I guess that's, my problem. But, right now, I mean, we're in the middle of August. So this is it. And there's going to have to be some turnaround just to salvage this situation and get into that 1-game playoff. Now, look, that's all it takes. It's a 1-game playoff. I don't care who the Dodgers. I don't care if Koufax is pitching, right? I mean, it's going to be one game. You get 1 shot, and anything could happen in that 1 game. With a decently healthy team. And right now, we're got to worry about outlasting the Reds, and the Reds are doing very, very well. So just got to get to that 1 game. That's the hope. And it's going to be a sprint. I don't think that, just because things have gone downhill quickly, the Reds are no great shakes. It's going to be a race to the finish with the Cincinnati Reds.
Exactly. Hey, to answer PJ's question there, the pitching coach, getting rid of him, I don't think it had anything to do with Mackenzie Gore because Mackenzie Gore never got to the major league level. So I don't think Rothschild had really anything to do with him during the season. But, Mackenzie Gore, it's question, what's going on there? I mean, because by now he was supposed to be in the starting rotation. They sure as heck could have used him. But, I mean, now, Ramon, as you look at the schedule over the next 6 weeks, the Padres have the most difficult schedule. They have 36 games left. One of those 36, they're leading Atlanta 5-4 in the bottom of the 5th inning, game that had a rain delay. They're going to have to make up. And of the other 35, 19 of those 35 are against the Dodgers and Giants. So the Padres not only are going to determine their own fate, they're also going to determine who wins the National League West because of all the games they have against the Dodgers and Giants. The Reds have a relatively easy schedule. A lot of games with they're in the same division with the Pirates and Cubs, and they play those two teams a lot. But that being said, look what the Padres did with 2 weeks against weak teams. You can only hope that the Cincinnati Reds handle the Pirates and the Cubs the same way that the Padres handled or did not handle the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. I mean, the Padres are one game below 500 against the two worst teams in their division. And at the end of the year, Ramon, if the Padres do not make the playoffs, you're certainly going to look at that. You're certainly going to look at that 1-6 trip to Arizona and Colorado. And you're certainly going to look at that 5-8 record in 13 games with Arizona, Colorado, and Miami. Wow.
Yeah, because in baseball, when the margins are so thin, to have such a discrepancy in your success when you're dealing with a strength of schedule, there are a lot of people that want to kind of analyze why something like that happens to a team, because at some point it doesn't become based on talent, right? I mean, especially in a sport like baseball. So if you're really going to start to make little finger pointing and trying to analyze the psychology of it, start to think about coaching staffs and things like that, you could say that with a young team that's what could also happen when you're looking past opponents, right? Taking teams lightly, and then all of a sudden when it comes to that big series, they're always on their best performing level. So that kind of is something that people will bandy about. But just to see some of the breakdowns a little bit, you see Manny getting frustrated the other night. It just lends to something else happening. Surely it has to do with a confidence level and seeing things slip away to the point where it feels like you can't salvage it.
Yeah, and speaking of Manny getting frustrated the other night, if Doug Eddings never again calls balls and strikes at a Padres game, and it'll be too soon. He missed 17 calls in Miami. He missed 12 the other night. And think about this, Ramon. Skip Schumacher's been around in baseball forever as a player and coach. His first ejection ever was by Doug Eddings in Miami. Ryan Flaherty, a Padres coach, his first ejection ever by Doug Eddings. I always ask the question when those types of things happen, it's kind of like somebody that is always having stuff go wrong and they fire 10 different car mechanics or whatever. And the question is it really the 10 car mechanics or is it the person? Just like with Doug Eddings, is it all these guys he's kicking out of the game or is it Doug Eddings? Yeah, it's Doug Eddings.
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, the Padres still, I saw the frustration there with Manny, and rightfully so. But the big thing with the Padres, too, Ramon, that's kind of bothered me, the trade deadline, not only that they did not get Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, who went to the Dodgers and helped the Dodgers really turn things around. Look at who they've gotten. Adam Frazier, since he's come over, has hit about 240, and he's gone from batting leadoff to batting 7th or 8th. Daniel Hudson has not pitched well, and Jake Marisnick doesn't even play. I mean, it's just like in the trade deadline, the Padres regressed. And one thing you're hearing, too, and I believe in it also, you're hearing a lot that, there was talk of Eric Hosmer getting traded. And, yeah, Hosmer was slumping at the time. He's doing very well now. Hosmer's a team leader, and had he left the team, that would have been like to the players, a heart and soul leaving the team. So I think the emotional part of that also has hurt the team. I mean, I'm sure, Hosmer's been one of the, like the one night when they got no hit in Arizona, he was the one who called the team meeting and said, come on, guys. And the next day they won 8-2. So Hosmer's a key guy here, and I could see why the Padres want to get rid of that big contract. But again, Ramon, the biggest thing is now they've got to play a lot of Dodgers, a lot of Giants. But you know what? Those are the type teams they've beaten this year. They're 7-3 against the Dodgers. They're only 4-5 against the Giants. But for whatever reason, they seem to compete better against the better teams. And their hope is they can do that these last 6 weeks because they also play Houston. They also play Atlanta. They also play St. Louis. So it's a tough schedule.
Yeah, and you only hope that will be it, that they can find the motivation again to compete with those teams, because now they're going into this last part of the season, of course, behind the 8 ball because of the, injury situation. So, look, the thing with the pitching staff, if you want to give Weathers an opener and try that, I mean, look, I don't have a problem with Weathers in the future. When you have a left-hander who can be crafty, you can, get something done with him at the back end of a rotation or give you innings in the future. He's got a major league future. It's just that right now you're in the midst of a playoff chase, and that's what they're hoping with a guy like Arrieta can find something, right? Not only rely on his experience and competitiveness to try to find something within and give them the innings that they need, because right now I just don't see the situation changing with the hodgepodge of relievers just coming in. You're just not getting the necessary innings. Look, I'm glad Blake Snell has kind of had a little bit of success now getting it back. Look, he's a Cy Young Award winner, right? I mean, maybe I don't know why it takes so long out there, and whatever that's if that's something with the pitching coach too or whatnot. I mean, it's frustrating. You don't let teams run all over you anymore in today's baseball. That's something the Padres do, but not other teams. So it's tough when guys are getting on base and moving along. But I think they just thought that getting this type of starting pitching would get them through. But when you have a couple of key injuries that are going to put sideline guys. And I don't want to go back all the way to Clevenger, because that's almost unfair because it was so long ago. But it wasn't something like something they saw coming. He was expected to be a part of the team. So
exactly. I mean, again, like we said on the pitching earlier, even with it knowing that you didn't have Clevenger going this season, I named 8 or 9 guys earlier who were supposed to be starters this year, and now they're down to a couple. Speaking of starters, the Dodger series now, we've got that up here. I know Wednesday and Thursday, Padres are going to see Walker Buehler on Wednesday, who's probably going to win the National League Cy Young Award. On Thursday, they're going to see Max Scherzer, who's surely going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Padres haven't announced any of their starters. My best guess is Wednesday's going to be Buehler against Blake Snell, and Thursday's going to be Scherzer against Joe Musgrove, because Snell and Musgrove will both be pitching on regular rest. Tomorrow, don't know. The Dodgers, I imagine Julio Urias, who's been on the injured list, will come back tomorrow. And the Padres' best case scenario will be that Yu Darvish comes back tomorrow off the injured list, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen. And if it does not happen, you basically have to go with a bullpen game, because that's all you have left. I mean, you don't have anybody else who can start that game, really. So we'll see what goes on. But again, what's going to be interesting, though, that those 3 games are going to sell out. And speaking of sellouts, Ramon, one thing that's been very interesting since June 17th, when the stadium was open completely, the Padres have already sold out 10 games. I know I'm down there every night with Valley Sports San Diego doing the statistics for them. And the number that keeps getting me more than anything, there's 35,000, 40,000 people a game. Even like this weekend against Philadelphia, had 40 plus on Friday, 43 plus on Saturday, 38 plus on Sunday. I don't know. I should look up the numbers, but I would imagine the Padres are probably averaging 38,000 or so a game. And it amazes me that even despite the way the team's playing, people just keep coming. I guess after being locked up for so long, people just want to get out. And one way to get out is go to a Padre game. And certainly, I don't know for sure, but I would bet big money that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all 3 of those games against the Dodgers will sell out or be darn close.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a trend all over the country right now. I think, and I noted it the other night too, Steve. In the high school ball, I said that I believe that the crowds at the football games would be the largest crowds that they've seen for an opening night, possibly in the last 5 years before the pandemic. And I think that held true. And I think that it's just people willing to do things, go out and do things, and everyone's having a great time out there. There's no doubt. I mean, it's bummer that we're not totally performing up to expectations. Like I said, by Padres standards, this has been an incredible season, a terrific season, full of excitement, and still have some promise in it. So, I'm not saying cross your fingers, some miracle's going to happen. It's going to take some luck almost. It's going to take some gritty performances, something that's going to really spin our heads and make us remember it if we were to get lucky and make something of this season. So.
Yeah, and Ramon, if you get in, like you say, the Padres, if they get in, they'll be in a one game wild card. Talking too fast here. But in a one-game wild card, they'll either be going to Los Angeles or San Francisco, whichever team does not win the division. And a one-game wild card, if you play the Giants, you probably face Kevin Gausman. And a one-game wild card with the Dodgers, probably Walker Buehler, maybe Max Scherzer. And the Padres, who would they pitch in a one-game wild card? Right now, if the season ended today, even if Darvish were healthy, I'd say the Padres' best starter is Joe Musgrove, Grossmont High Zone. But would Musgrove start that one-game wild card? I still think it would probably be Darvish if he can get back to pitching like he was. But you got to remember, at one point he was 7-2 record. Now he's 7-7. You look at Ryan Weathers. At one point his ERA was in the twos. Now it's in the fives. And again with Weathers, I just don't know what you do with him. I mean, the only thing you can do is maybe pitch him in the later innings if you're up 8-0 or down 8-0, because you just can't pitch him in a close game. Look what happened yesterday with Philadelphia. They brought him in. He gives up, in the middle innings, he gives up 3 runs, loses the game. I mean, it's just not looking good for him. But, he's 21 years old. They've rushed him and all, which I didn't think they'd be doing anymore with people because they have all this talent. But again, as I said earlier, it's not always talent. The Giants are having a magical season. The Dodgers are the defending world champions. They are the Dodgers. The Padres, they're still in it. Let's face it. They're one game out in the wild card. And to listen to some of these talk shows, you'd think that they are out of it. They're not out of it. I mean, maybe they will be in 6 weeks when the season ends. But again, they've got 36 games to play, and that's what's going to determine. That's a lot of games. I mean, that's a lot of games. So we'll see what happens over these next 6 weeks. But I mean, I wouldn't give up on them yet. And yet, on the other hand, I wouldn't say, gee, they're going to be a shoo-in to get the wild card, because certainly not.
Yeah. One thing that I think that the Padres can do moving forward, and again, I mean, I'm not brushing off this season at all, and, I'm not saying that the 22 was the target date, but especially with all the fans rushing back, right, to get back to see, some of these games. I mean, it's going to be, a great rest of the season, and the Reds are no good. Come on. They're not better than us. I agree with you. They have the easier schedule. They seem to play pretty well at home. So maybe that's where, the excitement's going to come in. If it comes down to that situation, Steve, you talk about the pitching at the end of the season, we might have to maneuver a little bit, especially if we're really fighting for that final spot. I mean, it could come down to a situation where they're having to maneuver the pitching a little bit just to get the right situation in the last series of the season. But I'm not saying that the team needs to look ahead and move forward, but again, we have Fernando just one injury away from being gone for the rest of the season. I mean, we've seen it happen several times. Look, it's not a major enough injury that he's not back in just a couple of days. It's like re-bruising it or something, or every time it happens, and it just takes the wind out of the sails now of the team. The first time that we were able to get through it, the next couple of times, the losses kind of followed with it. And as soon as he came back, it's like, especially with him, right, hitting the home runs as soon as he comes back to show, right, that's the type of player this guy is, to show that he's healthy, to hit those home runs and everything. But the Padres, that swag chain's kind of it's they'll take it out now and then, but there's no reason to be flaunting it at this point.
No reason to have swag when there's no reason to have swag, to have that chain out. One thing about Fernando, though, in the outfield, he's been fine. I mean, he hasn't made any spectacular plays, but he hasn't really made any mistakes either. He hasn't had any tough plays yet. I think he's been fine out there. And quite frankly, with Cronenworth at short, or even when Kim's there, they're not going to make the spectacular plays Fernando makes. But you know what? Both of them, if you were just totally honest with just this season, both of them have been more steady at shortstop than Fernando was. I'm not saying Fernando should stay in the outfield because of that, but he's been fine out there. And, the fact that he went out and got Adam Frazier meant, you didn't go out to get him to sit the bench. I mean, he was leading the league in hitting until he came here. Frazier came here to play second base, which means Cronenworth had to go somewhere, and he's going to play shortstop because, without Jake Cronenworth, he saved the season Saturday night. I mean, that 2-run homer with 2 outs at the bottom of the ninth off Aaron Nola when he was pitching just a magnificent game, that saved the season. The Padres lose that one, and I think it's over. My biggest disappointment, though, Ramon, was yesterday, because after that great comeback win on Saturday, you're like, oh my gosh, they got the pardon the word, but they've got the swag back. They've got the momentum, great comeback. And you're going to play off that on Sunday. You're going to and then they come out Sunday and lay an egg. So at some point, and they got to get hot soon. But, I guess theoretically in baseball, you go hot, cold. So I guess you want to be optimistic. Theoretically, it's their turn to go hot, and it's the Reds' turn to go cold. One thing about the Reds, Ramon, that I think people got to remember, if by chance the Padres and Reds do tie for that second and final wild card spot, it'd be a one-game playoff in San Diego. Why? The Padres beat the Reds 6 out of 7 times head-to-head. So, I guess if they get in that one-game playoff against the Reds to get in the playoffs,
is that a play? It's not a. Is that a playoff? No.
It's a play-in game. It's game 163 in essence. But
that might be our glory. That might be our glory game right there.
Yeah, it is, but it's not officially a playoff game, but it is because you're getting in.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not, like I said, we didn't come here to restart another season of Dolan's Dugout to rag on the situation. It's just a coincidence that Rothschild was fired today, and given the circumstances of, the aesthetics of it, it doesn't look very good right now. The way the team is handling things, it just doesn't give a championship look, right? So that's what I think the worry is. It's not going to affect the gate at all. People are excited about the team. They love these players. There's no doubt about it. Look, Manny, I want to also comment on Frazier because you did. I don't have a necessarily problem with his slump right away. He is a streaky player. I think any player also that's going to move out to play on the West Coast maybe going to feel a little bit of dip in their average. Also, I think that's something that has to be considered. It's also easier to be a pitching coach in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oakland, and San Diego, and not about Anaheim, but. Look, the West Coast games are a little bit lower scoring than the rest of the games, to be honest with you. So, I don't know, Steve. I have frustration just like everybody does. So, I'm not going to finger point because we're just here doing our little show to talk about the team that we love. But it's going to have to turn around. It's going to have some kind of magic just to get to that situation. We can win that one game. That'd be just terrific. I'm talking about the game against the Dodgers or the Giants.
Sure. And like I say, not counting that game against Atlanta. Once again, the game in Atlanta, the Padres are winning 5-4 in the bottom of the 5th, second game of a doubleheader. So they're up 5-4 after 4.5 innings in a 7-inning game. They're going to finish that here in San Diego. I believe it's September 26th, the Friday, and then play the Braves in a regular game that night. But after that, they got 19 of 35 left against the Dodgers and Giants, so that's going to determine everything. And Ramon, I want to thank you so much for having us back on Dolan's Dugout tonight. We're certainly going to be back again. We'll be here periodically. We'll always let you know before we come on when we're going to be on. And I just want to thank you for having me back. Appreciate everything tonight. I want to let you have the final word. And thanks so much for being with me.
Yeah, I have a lot to get off my chest about the team, but I'm going to reserve my anger at this point. It's not anger, right? It's just frustration. You just don't like injuries. You don't like things to unravel when things looked so promising when we were sitting here touting the team's prospects for a championship this year. I don't think we got overboard. I don't think we went overboard, Steve. I think we were realistic. I think we gave the Dodgers all the kudos. We didn't give the Giants any respect, but who did? So
yeah, nobody did. Going in, as you know, you could have got great odds on the Giants to win the division, but going in the season, would you really have taken those odds? Absolutely not, being in the same division for the Dodgers and Padres.
They kind of made the pitching moves maybe that we should have been thinking about, but I guess that's why they'll probably win some. Their guys will probably, their management team will probably win some awards this year.
Well, absolutely, they're going to have definitely, definitely Gabe Kapler is going to be the manager of the year. Definitely front office is going to get awards. Because again, they've been that team that came out of nowhere, and those things happen. But again, we got 6 more weeks to go in the season. Ramon, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Look forward to seeing you again on Dolan's Dugout.
Take care, brother.